Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
'Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. There's still time. The AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Zachary Adamazheimer.
And we're back with another packed podcast full of Vancouver Whitecaps, CPL and Canadian soccer chat. We've got a lot to get into. Obviously, the Whitecaps have announced their new head coach. We'll get into that in this part. We've got a couple of feature interviews to bring you this episode. The first of a two-part interview we're going to bring you with TSS Rovers Colin Elms, along with a chat with UBC Thunderbird, the man that scored their winning goal, the dramatic winning goal to win their 14th U Sports title, Jovan Man. We'll look around some of the other talking points around MLS and the managerial merry-go-round that's come to an end. But before we get to all of that, Zach, how's your week been?
Yeah, it's been a good week, full week. Back in the saddle, back in the swing of things. Kids back to school, working with students. Really enjoyable week with the family.
Did you watch any football either on the TV? I guess. Well, Fraser Valley League's not back up and running, but it was the All-Star game this weekend.
Oh yeah, I didn't partake in that. Yeah, the first game I think is next Sunday, so I think it's the 19th, and it's at Hjorth in Surrey, so I might go there.
And are Bayern off just now?
Yeah, no, man. We had a short break this year. It was only, I think, 2 weeks off for the players and 2 weeks of preseason. We had a friendly against Red Bull Salzburg that we talked about.
Oh, yeah. I forgot you mentioned that. Yeah.
And then, we played Saturday. We played not a great game to watch for the neutrals, to be honest. It was a 1-0 away victory it was the real Der Klassiker. It was against Borussia Mönchengladbach. And it was 1-0 thanks to a penalty kick scored by some Englishmen. And the penalty
still never won anything.
Yeah, and I wish I could say long may that continue, but obviously I don't want that. But no, the penalty was a little bit generous, although there was a handball in the first half that was not given for a penalty that would have been for us, where the player went like this, Michael. It was like yeah, he raised both his hands crossed over each other. I guess as the ball, I think his teammate was clearing the ball and was coming towards his face, but his hands were like over his head and it hit his hands.
And then did he what are you talking about? I didn't do anything wrong.
I can't remember his motion, but that to me was probably more of an actual penalty by the letter of the law than the one that was given. But I think if you combine the two, getting a penalty, Bayern was worthy of having at least one penalty, and then did enough defensively to. Gladbach did nothing. Gladbach just sat back the whole first half. Gladbach's expected goals in the first half, Michael, 0.00.
Oh.
They did not. They just literally sat back and were hoping for a free kick or.
I've seen some low ones with the Whitecaps last season, but I don't think I've ever seen 0.
I don't remember what it was at full time because they did have chances in the second half, but No, it wasn't I mean, as a Bayern fan, I enjoy watching all Bayern games, but it was not one for the, it was not a classic, nor one for the neutrals would have been super thrilled about. But the other games, it was a fun weekend in the Bundesliga. Bayern has a player on loan, another player on loan at Heidenheim, and he scored the opening goal in the match winner. Franz Kratzig, young left-footed, left-sided player. So that was good. Yeah.
East Fife made it 2 wins in a week, 3 in 8 days, top of League 2, 5-point gap. Amazing second half performances after struggling in the first half in both games, but they're looking good. Caitlin was away for the weekend visiting her dad on the island, so obviously I spent the weekend doing what any man left alone would do, and I just had football on wall to wall
Nice.
in the FA Cup, and not as many cup shocks as I would have liked. There's only really been a couple,
Yeah.
but it was fun. Yeah, I still love the FA Cup. The lack of replays has kind of killed it, especially for some of the teams. Watched Tamworth against Tottenham on Sunday, which I don't know if you heard about, but non-league Tamworth struggling 16th in the National League, 0-0 at the end of the 90 minutes at home. Took Tottenham to extra time before tiredness really gave way and they lost 3-0. But the lack of replays deprived them of a big money spinning tie at home or away to Tottenham, and yeah, that was disappointing. But that was a lot of fun. The Arsenal Man U game was quite fun as well.
Can you explain to the listeners how the wall-to-wall football this weekend is different than any weekend?
Well, I mean, arguably it is the same as every weekend because I did watch the A-League games as well on Friday night. I just feel less guilt.
Oh, there you go.
That's not true. I don't feel any guilt.
Bayern does have what's called in Germany an English Woche, meaning that there's league games midweek this week. Yeah, that's what
There's
I'm
an interesting midweek game in Scotland this week. It's like the longest fixture travel-wise in Scotland. Stranraer to Peterhead. Called off on a Saturday because of the weather. And now Stranraer's got, I think, about an 8-hour trip, maybe more, on a Tuesday night, which is not ideal. But we then play Stranraer the following Saturday, so we're quite happy.
Perfect. Oh yeah, it's perfect.
But that's the preamble over. We'll get into the meat and potatoes now, because the Whitecaps finally have a new boss. So, I mean, it's been what's felt like quite a long journey, some twists and turns along the way. I mean, one of the first things to ask you, Zach, is like, we had Axel on the show, obviously, a couple of shows ago, and he talked about the confusion about the fact that they had their man, and then we speculated last week that we thought it was Stefan Baumgart. JJ Adams, in his piece that he wrote on Tuesday, also basically speculated that, and Axel admitted that their first choice had been poached by a bigger club. And
in a top 5 league.
In a top 5 league.
I forgot
get why, but it's not a great look to come out and admit that.
No, it's unfortunate. I mean, at least on the upside, he's being transparent, or he's showing a level of transparency and honesty that is, I think, much appreciated by many people. The negative way to look at it is it shows that you didn't get your top choice. I forgot to mention that Franz Kratzig match-winning goal for Heidenheim at home was to Stefan Baumgart's Union Berlin side.
Oh,
who failed to get on the score sheet and had a man sent off in the game.
Oh, well, glad we didn't get him then. He's no good. It makes you wonder though, like the guys that then get interviewed or the guy that then takes over, how do they feel knowing that they weren't the first choice? Although it's not been the first time that's happened, because Robinson was not the first choice either.
Oh, and he very, very well knew that.
Yeah.
And he took it in stride and took it as.
Well, yeah, he's like, I don't care. I've got this opportunity. I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about Robbo in the next part as well. But yeah, they finally have their man. The search is over. Fans were a little bit panicky as they were coming into pre-season without a man guiding the helm. And the last of the 5 MLS teams that were looking for a head coach to appoint one as well. And the man at the helm of the Whitecaps for 2025 and hopefully many seasons to come is 51-year-old Dane Jesper Sørensen. It's interesting because now you've got Vancouver Rise have their Danish head coach and Anja Heinermoller. Now the Whitecaps have their head coach, Danish head coach, and Jesper Sørensen. Is it because of their football talent, or is this a plan by Denmark to get some key people closer to Greenland to keep an eye on it?
Oh, that was good.
The former midfielder who was capped for Denmark at youth level from U17 up to U21, never made it into the senior national team, had a playing career that went from 1991 to 2006, playing 3 times with Aarhus. Aarhus, in the middle of Denmark, Aarhus. Played 3 times for them. Also played for FC Copenhagen and for AB Academics Boldklub Gladsaxe, who have a nice owl logo. Yes, I am reading a lot on Wikipedia as we are recording this. Managerially, he's been a manager since 2009. He was an assistant with Aarhus and then went...
Twice he was an assistant there.
Yeah, but he initially an assistant from 2009 to 2013, then went to Silkeborg in the second tier of Danish football in 2013-14, winning the second division title with them. So he is a winner. He's got silverware to his name. Then going back to Aarhus in 2015 before managing in Fredericia, another Danish first division team from 2015 to 2018. Moved to Bronby as assistant 2019 to 2021 before taking the helm of the Denmark under-21 side, where he was in charge from 2021 to 2023, and then in 2023 itself, going back to Bronby, this time as head coach.
He basically did 2 full seasons.
He did
there.
2, well...
2 full years.
Years there. And he got runner-up in the 2023 season in Denmark. And it was a good performance from Bronby. I think everyone saw them on the international stage as well. But was sacked on December 11th this year with Bronby in 5th place in the Danish Superliga. Now making his way over to Vancouver. His win percentage at Bronby, incidentally, was 50.68%, 37 wins from 73 matches. So over 50% is fantastic. Over 50% as well, just shy of 54% with the Denmark under-21 side. 7 wins from 13 games. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about him before reading Wikipedia. And I'll quote you this tweet that we got on Sunday night from Aidan Steinke when Glass City broke the news that Jesper was going to be the new Caps coach. He said, Bronby are a big, big club. He has to be a respected manager to be the manager of an under-21 country who is a top 20 country in world football. With me having zero background knowledge of him, I feel very optimistic about this hire. Glad it's done and he can head to Spain with the club. What's your thoughts on Jesper, Zach?
Aiden's a good guy.
Yeah.
It seems a little underwhelming, to be honest. Aiden's not wrong in his assessment that Bronby is a big club in Denmark. I mean, they're not the Copenhagen. Obviously, that's the biggest side in the country.
But I think so many folk who have seen Bronby in European competitions in recent years.
Totally. But again, I think it feels like one of those things that is underwhelming. But I think, like you, I feel like he could come in and do a job and do it actually quite well.
I don't necessarily see it as underwhelming, to be honest. Like, genuinely, I'd rather have had a guy that's managing a team like Bronby than some guy from, say, Bundesliga second division that I'd never heard of.
Yeah, but that's all relative, right? When I say underwhelming, I meant it's going to be received as underwhelming from the
Right.
general fan base. I think it actually could be a quite good piece of business by Axel. It seems like someone with some quality and some potential and a ceiling that could be raised. Now, obviously, there's been Danish coaches who've come to the province of British Columbia and underperformed. I don't think this guy doesn't come with the same background as Silverbauer did at Pacific, and obviously different leagues. But um, yeah, as underwhelming as I believe this will be perceived, I believe it does have the potential that Axel sees as a must in this role. I think had they gone with someone like Savarese, it would have been like the most obvious highest quality of coach signing in the MLS era. This one seems a little bit more par for the course, and maybe you could say he's the most accomplished, maybe alongside Mark Dos Santos, maybe. Um,
I mean, if you're looking at what they've won, Mark
yeah,
DeSantis
yeah,
has won more
yeah.
because it's like Mark's won in the second tier, and so has Jesper. Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's like, do you equate second tier North America with a guy that hasn't won with Bronby but has been runner up in? I mean, like, where would you rank the Danish league? It's obviously not top five in Europe, arguably not top 10.
Yeah, that's hard. Isn't it probably not close? Like, yeah,
I'm going to have a quick Google of that just to see where do you rank the Danish Superliga
because
in terms of European competition?
well, because there's also people who would say like, look, the English Championship is ahead of it.
Yeah, I would.
Um,
It's ranked 11th in the world by Opta Analyst,
oh wow, okay. Higher
one
than,
place higher than Eredivisie, which I just butchered, but you know what I mean.
wait, the Dutch Eredivisie?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's ridiculous to me then.
I'm very surprised by that, I've got to say. I guess that's though, a lot of it's going to be based on success in European competition. And the
Yeah,
sides have struggled. There's been a few shock wins, and like I'm looking just now as well at UEFA coefficients, which is a big discussion that we regularly have it in Scotland at the moment because of where Scotland's ranked. And the Danish coefficient is ranked 16th, one below Scotland's leagues as well, which is interesting. So if you go by the UEFA rankings, then Denmark are league 16th, one behind Scotland.
hmm. Yeah, that is interesting.
And they have the Dutch league as sixth.
Yeah, oh yeah, the Dutch league is yeah much better than it in my opinion. Sorry.
So I think we can ignore this Opta one then that I found.
Yeah,
Yeah, bizarre. But yeah, I mean, I don't know much about him. We'll obviously get to learn his style. Now, this is what I love about Glass City. He does the research, so I don't have to. I can just read his tweets. So what he was researching is the style of play, and he says Sorensen's preferred formation has been the 3-4-2-1. So that's interesting in itself because Axel had come out and said that, well, the new coach will be looking to go for a back four, but that was when it looked like they had who we're assuming Baumgart lined up, and then they brought in two fullbacks in the draft as well. So I mean, is Sorensen going to go with that 3-4-2-1? Will he decide to be flexible and go for the four at the back? How will he see Armstrong fitting into that 3-4-2-1? And of course, will it be a true 3-4-2-1? Or will Vanny still be the only manager that Whitecaps have had that's played a true three at the back?
yeah, that whole backline stuff and how Axel had been talking about it and how they drafted now feels really, really awkward. I mean, the whole not getting your first choice and it appears like making some plans on a different choice. We'll see how flexible he is, or maybe that was part of his conversation with Axel, and he's planning on playing with a back four in MLS. But yeah, that'll be really interesting.
Now, I've never been to Denmark, but I have been to Solvang in California. which I don't know if we've talked about Solvang on the show before when Anja Heiner Moller was appointed or not. Have I told you about Solvang?
I don't recall.
It's a Danish town in the middle of California.
Oh,
It's amazing. It's like Danish style buildings, Danish restaurants, Danish bakeries. It's well worth a visit if you're down in Southern California. We stumbled across it by accident and we're like, oh my God, this is like one of the coolest places we've ever been to. So it's called Solvang. Go and check it out. It dates back as well to, I think, the early 1800s,
did
but
you say it was Northern California?
Southern California.
I don't think there's too many people traveling to Southern California right now, Michael.
I didn't mean go and visit right this minute.
Yeah, okay.
And hopefully it survives. But when we went down to Santa Barbara, we went there and yeah, it was great. And the Danish cakes that they've got. Now, I'm hoping when they introduce them at all these press conferences, we're just going to get lots of Danish pastries to eat. Thinking ahead of the important stuff.
As opposed to like him arriving in an armed personnel carrier?
Yes. There's genuinely, like, if people just look up the different kind of Danish stuff, they do a really nice Danish donut. I could go on about this for ages, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, when I first sit down with Jesper Sørensen, that is going to be a big part of our conversation. Get how the team's going to play. Tell us about Danish cakes.
One of my second ever match I can remember going to in January 24th, 1995 at Rogers Arena. It was the Skydome Cup, and it was Canada, Denmark, like a Denmark B team and like an Olympic Portuguese team. And I only went to the one game, Canada, Denmark. Denmark won 1-0, and we were leaving Skydome, and it was January, it was snowy. One of my friends who I went with, who's Portuguese, he yelled at some Danish people, hey, buddy, you want a Danish? And then we were young, like it was 1995. So I wasn't even 16 yet. So I just remember these guys following us through to it was called the Skywalk at the time, the path from Skydome to Union Station, just being like freaked out that these old, like, I don't know, they were probably teenagers or young 20s or whatever, chasing us down. But yeah, whenever I think of Denmark and I think of Danishes, I think of that footballing moment.
I was just looking to see if Jesper Sørensen and David Ousted had crossed paths.
Oh.
And because I knew that David had been on loan to AB.
Oh,
and
right.
he was there 2005, 2006, whereas Jesper was there 99 to 2004. So they just missed each other by a year.
I'm going to have to message David.
Yeah, I was going to say, get in touch with David and see what his thoughts. He can come in as goalkeeping coach. Although I do like Yusuf. We know the coach is allowed to bring in one assistant. It could be David Ousted. You never know. Club legend coming back. The awkward thing in this as well, do you think, will this bother Sorensen that he isn't the first choice?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he handles that, or how many times Har or someone asks him about.
Oh yeah, I mean that's going to be an immediate question to him at the press conference.
I assume if he does face that, I think he'll just be like, look, this is football, that happens, and you move on. So I'm happy they chose me. Doesn't matter if I was first or second or third or fourth or whatever. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to get on with the job.
So interesting appointment. And I guess now that the Whitecaps have their coach, they can start adding some players as well. Because they said goodbye to one this week, actually, today or on Sunday. Colombian winger Diber Caicedo has been transferred to Colombian side Junior FC. The rumoured amount is $1 million plus a sell-on clause as well. And I think it's the best for both parties, Zach. We kind of spoke about it a couple of weeks ago when this rumour came out. I hoped the new coach might unlock him, but I think it's time to move on. Pasture's new. It's going to be the best for both parties, and just wish him all the very best. with a tinge of disappointment that we maybe never really got to see what he could be to this team.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think hopefully for him, this begins a new chapter in his career where that can actually see him flourish and live up to his potential. For Vancouver, hopefully the funds that they get out of it are enough for them to do something, with the new coach, to be able to bolster their squad and invest in another young player who might be kind of the player that they're kind of looking for or hoping for.
Well, frees up a senior roster spot, frees up an international spot. If they want to look at a U22 initiative player, Caicedo had 81 appearances, 6 goals, 11 assists, and we never really got to see him much when he came back. He just wasn't up to match fitness when he came back. But yeah, hopefully he moves on, lights it up in Colombia. Hopefully we get a good replacement in as well that can get us off and running, because we've got spots on that senior roster now as well. I think Glass City tweeted out on Sunday that there's 4 senior roster spots available, and if the Whitecaps don't fill them, there will be a financial penalty as well. So we'll see how all of that goes. But that's it for the Whitecaps chat. The appointment of the new head coach ended the managerial merry-go-round for now. I'm sure there'll be some vacancies come out sooner rather than later. And we're going to have a little look at some of the managerial appointments for this year, including Robin Fraser to TFC. And we'll be back chatting about that after this episode's song from our album of the month.
Hey, I am Axel Schuster, and I'm listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
22 grand job in the city, it's alright. 22 grand job in the city, it's alright. 22 grand job in the city, that sounds nice. It's alright, it's alright. In the city, it's alright. 22 grand job in the city, it's alright. 22 grand job in the city, it's alright. 22 grand job in the city, that sounds nice. It's alright, it's alright. In the city, it's alright. Government work looks alright, but the lights are too bright. Broken sales, ups are too. What am I supposed to do? But he's earning 28 and I'm on 22. It's alright, it's alright. In the city, it's alright. 22 grand job in the city, it's alright. 22 grand job in the city, it's alright. 22 grand job in the city, that sounds nice. It's alright, it's alright. In the city, it's alright. Down to Old Street Thursday night. In the city, that sounds nice. Talking shop with my colleagues. Did we do the same degree? You said less to me all week. Got to go, I'm in early. That's alright, that's alright. If the money's alright. 22 grand job. In the city, it's alright. 22 grand job. In the city, it's alright. 22 grand job. In the city, that sounds nice. It's alright, it's alright. In the city, it's alright. 22 grand job. 22 grand job. 22 grand job. 22 grand job in the city, that sounds nice.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's our album of the month from London band The Rakes. The album is their debut 2005's Capture release, and that song was the song that started it all off for the band. It was their debut single, which was released in 2004, didn't really get any traction. Then after a couple of hit singles, it was re-released on Halloween 2005, making it to number 39 in the UK charts, number 5 in the UK indie charts. That was 22 grand job. And that's in pounds. If I try and do a quick Canadian exchange rate here, doesn't have the same ring to it if you're kind of singing 38,746 grand job in the city. That's all right. Doesn't scan as well. But I mean, a 39,000 job in the city in Vancouver, it's not going to get you very far. It's not a knock off what a lot of people are making in the CPL, though, and it's going to be a little bit less than what players are going to be making in the new NSL. Certainly is nowhere near what the managers in Major League Soccer are making. Of course, we never get to find those out, so we don't know exactly what the new Whitecaps boss is going to be on. Axel did say there was a good salary on offer for the managers, but some of the managers that had applied for the Whitecaps job, their salary demands were just too steep. But it's an incentive-based salary, which I love. I love the idea of it. Some of the managers might not, but it's good because you're being rewarded for success. The deeper in the playoffs the manager goes, the more his salary is going to be. To me, that's how it should be. I worked for years in the UK in a bank on an incentivized scheme, and it certainly makes you perform a bit better. So we'll have to see exactly how far the new boss can go and how much that salary might be for him come the end. And as mentioned there, the Whitecaps were the last of the MLS teams to fill their managerial vacancy. 4 teams made appointments this year, 2025. Former St. Louis coach, 47-year-old South African Bradley Carnell, was named Philadelphia head coach on January 2nd. Had a good first season with St. Louis, a poor second one there. You have to feel, Zach, it's probably they feel it's a young guy that can maybe come in and do maybe what Jim Curtin did and try and replicate that season 1 success that he had with an expansion team.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one, but it does seem kind of in line with who they are and what they're doing. So not like overall shocking in any way, shape, or form.
So Philly were the first of the teams to appoint in 2025. Next up, on January 6th, 51-year-old Dutchman Pascal Jansen was named NYC FC head coach. He's had spells with PSV Eindhoven, reserves, AZ Alkmaar, and most recently, Ferencváros in Hungary. I was quite surprised by this appointment, Zach, on a number of levels, primarily, though, that he's never been involved with any City Group teams, and they do seem to like to go for guys that's been involved in that system. But I'll be honest, I know nothing about him, haven't followed Alkmaar at all, and I mean, it's another overseas manager in the league. I mean, do you know much about him or anything about him?
Not really, but I do know Alkmaar has had some good years recently. What years was he there? I didn't look at that.
He was there from 2020 to 2024.
Oh yeah. I mean they had some runs in Europe, Champions League third qualifying round, Europa League, Conference League. Yeah.
What I can gather though, never won anything.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to. I mean, Holland's a bit of a hard place to win, right? Like you have a big 3, so it's not just like one giant or 2 giants. There's 3 really established clubs, and rarely do. It's kind of like Portugal, right? Rarely do the other sides break in. But I do know they've brought through some good players recently. So that's that one again. I don't know him well, but that one is kind of is more intriguing than say what Philly's done or even what's happening here in Vancouver.
Well, I mean, I had a look at the Hungarian standings, and like Ferencváros, as you currently look at them, are sitting second, a point off first with a game in hand, and he left at the end of December. So I guess a lot of the credit for that can be laid at him. But it's going to be an interesting appointment. And they've obviously done due diligence on him, and he feel he's the right man for the job. So it will be interesting to see what they can get out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Then on Friday, the other Canadian club with a vacancy, Toronto, they appointed the much-travelled Robin Fraser, 58-year-old Jamaican-American. He was an assistant in Toronto before under Greg Vanney, 2015 to 2019. Only his 3rd ever job, though, as a head coach, aged 58. Everything else that he's done has been as an assistant. He had 2 years in MLS with Chivas in 2011 and 2012. He only had 18 wins in 73 games and a 24.66 win percentage. Then 4 seasons, 3 full ones, 1 almost full one, and a part of one as well with Colorado Rapids from 2019 to 2023. 46 wins from 129 games, a 35.66 win percentage record. But he was fired in September of 2023 with Colorado rock bottom of the Western Conference. And I mentioned about Jensen there. Robin Fraser as well has never won anything as a head coach. Has had success as assistant, obviously, but never anything as a head coach. And another strange appointment for me, especially considering who else was on the market and the fact that it was mentioned that Gio Savarese was in the final 3 candidates as well. So they've gone for Fraser over a guy like Savarese, who's had a winning record with New York Cosmos and also success with Portland Timbers back in the 2020 MLS's back tournament.
Yeah, to me, it comes down to, Michael, it's a simple fact of there's someone they know, someone that they're comfortable with, someone that knows a lot about them. Like there won't be a huge, I don't think there'll be a huge learning curve for like just learning the football club, right? And so I think that plays a significant role in it. I also think they probably do feel has more to offer than his winning percentages at Chivas or Colorado.
Yeah, and obviously I'm being a little bit facetious by bringing that up because I think everyone would have struggled at Chivas, but they are in such a key moment for them because the last couple of years have been horrible, and they're still trying to get rid of Insigne and everything that comes with that.
Doing, right? They're actively doing that right now.
Yeah, as far as we know. But it's easy trying to get rid of someone, but it's not so easy getting someone to take that person as well for what you're wanting in return. I think at this point they might just be happy just to get him out of there. But I don't know that this is going to be the appointment that TFC fans wanted. I think they probably wanted a higher profile name. Obviously, Jim Curtin's name was bandied about for every single job. And Jeff Carlisle put out this week that Jim Curtin's decided to take time away, which we spoke about in the last show. We thought there's a good chance that he might want some time away and that he's going to start this year not with a job and wait to see how maybe the season plays out, which I think Vanny's going to do as well by the looks of it now. But I mean, Jim Curtin's a guy that could have come into Toronto and maybe done a good job. But then you've got like Bobby Smirniotis as well. And obviously we're not privy to how the discussions went. Maybe they said to Bobby, "You would like you for this," and maybe Bobby didn't want it. Like Tommy indicated last week, he didn't apply for either of these jobs. And it's like, well, they know where I am if they want to speak to me about it. And no one did, by the sounds of it. So, I mean, I know we're kind of biased. I would rather have had Bobby Smirniotis than Robin Fraser. And I'm someone that's not a TFC fan. I just think there's not that much difference between them. And Bobby has won things, obviously, and Bobby's good at youth. And yes, they might know Robin Fraser from his time as an assistant, and they obviously do see something big in him. But they also know Bobby as well and what he can do. And maybe he wasn't interested in the end, and he felt this wasn't the right time for him to go there. But I just found this a strange one.
I think they had to have had some kind of look in at Bobby Smirniotis. I think if it did come down to Bobby saying this is not the time for me, I don't begrudge them that because of the mess that they're trying to get themselves out of. Yeah. And if he said, "Hey, look, I would like this job in a year or 2 or 3 or whatever," or the next time you're looking, or whatever the case may be, I think that would be understandable because it does feel like for Fraser coming in that he has the same thing with like Herdman. He came in with these being shackled by these massive contracts to underperforming designated players who don't always appear to be the most easy to manage. So,
That's a nice way of putting it, yes.
yeah. I also think we were talking about Savarese before. I think I know you and I were talking about this, and yeah, probably I can imagine for him it wouldn't have been like the ideal location to relocate his family to at this moment, especially looking at the situation there.
No, and like if we believe Tom Bogart's report, Savarese was in the top three for Toronto and for here.
Yeah.
And he's been out of a job since 2023 when Portland let him go. And then he's been doing work for Apple TV. He knows the league. He's done well with the league. He's had success at lower level as well. So you have to feel if he's been in the mix for these, he's going to be back in the league as well sooner rather than later, or with a top USL team.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. The fifth team that was looking for a coach at the end of the season was Atlanta United, and they appointed their head coach in December, MLS Cup winner Ronnie Dela, who had won the MLS Cup in 2021 with NYCFC, and I knew him from his time at Celtic before that as well. And Atlanta confirmed his assistants this week, both of them with a Whitecaps connection. Kyle Robinson is back as assistant in Atlanta, and new assistant coming in, former Whitecaps DP, Kenny Miller. Maybe his wife Laura fancies Atlanta a bit more than Vancouver.
Well, yeah, there's definitely more to do in Atlanta. I've been to Atlanta. Have you been to Atlanta?
No.
Yeah.
Kenny Miller's an interesting one because I was meant to speak to him for his Five podcast when he was the assistant at Falkirk with Martin Rennie. And we had a couple of dates lined up and he had to cancel because something cropped up and he was really apologetic. And it's like, oh, we'll get it done. We'll get it done. And then he got let go and we never ended up doing it. And I was waiting for him to land somewhere else and maybe do it. And then he never really did. He was doing punditry and stuff. He was linked and applied for the East Fife job at one point.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, so he could have been East Fife manager, but instead he's Atlanta assistant. I don't think it compares.
Is Atlanta
or Atlanta?
Is Atlanta scheduled to come to BC Place this year?
Unfortunately not.
Yeah.
Had a quick check of the schedule there and nope. I didn't think they were. I just wanted to double check, but no. So I'll reach out to him. I want to speak to Kenny anyway, just about everything. So it's good for him. I'm glad he's back. He's got so much skill to bring. It's going to be interesting as well, because when Ronnie Dela was manager of Celtic, Kenny Miller had left the Whitecaps and went back to Rangers. So they were against each other for that little time as well, and now they're working together. Kenny Miller, though, is one of just 5 players in the post-war era that played for both Celtic and Rangers.
Along with Mo Johnston?
Yeah, well, yeah, he was the famous turncoat that was meant to be going back to Celtic. And he said, oh, that's the only club I want to play for, and then got unveiled as a Rangers player a couple of days later. Celtic fans were not very forgiving of that. They also didn't really welcome Kenny Miller with open arms, apart from when he scored against Rangers in one of the matches. Then they kind of accepted him then. But I mean, it's been a very busy time manager-wise in MLS. Player moves as well. We won't go fully into them as well, but I do want to talk about one crazy move this week that saw Chicho Arango leave RSL to go to San Jose Earthquakes, who are slowly building quite a team down there on the back of me saying, what's the point? What purpose does San Jose Earthquakes serve?
And
to prove me wrong.
And remind me, is that Bruce Arenas, San Jose Earthquakes? Because that would make sense for him to say, hey, we're making these big moves, because that's a big move.
Indeed it is. The 73-year-old
grandpa.
I was trying to think, who's the guy who's the cartoon character? Droopy.
Oh.
Hello, I'm Bruce Arena.
Eeyore.
Well, Eeyore, because they were a bunch of donkeys, is what you could have been chanting. San Jose Earthquakes, but they are building quite a nice little team there, and it's a bumper deal. RSL receiving 1.4 million in GAM and an international roster spot, which I think is a bargain. It's a bit of a steal for the Quakes. He got 17 goals last year for RSL. Now, he started strong and he did fall off a little bit. And I don't know, maybe he just wanted to be back in California.
Maybe.
But that's a team to watch. You've got the Whitecaps not making additions yet. You've got other teams around them doing it. One other team that's going to be weakened, though, is like, have you heard all the rumours about Driussi in Austin?
No.
He didn't turn up for medicals. He's trying to force a move. He was meant to be going to River Plate, and then Brazilian club Estudiantes have come in with a last-minute thing to try and swoop him. So it looks like he's going to be leaving Austin, and that's going to be a big, big blow to them.
That's a massive blow for them.
Yeah. I mean, well, when we do our kind of MLS season preview, we'll talk a lot more about that. Just want to round this part off by getting back to coaches, but this time on the CPL side, because not so much a managerial merry-go-round, more the status quo, but two head coaches that I think we both thought had already been confirmed and were in place for 2025, were confirmed that they are in place for 2025. Afshin Goatby back at Vancouver and Phil DeSantis back at Valor. 1 year deal for Phil at Valor, and I think it's just a 1 year deal for Afshin at VFC. Well,
Yeah,
both VFCs, but at Vancouver.
The first time I read it, it sounded like, oh, he signed on for a 3-year deal. But I think it was basically saying he is going to be back for the third season, which I think was always I think he was on a 3-year deal or 2-year plus an option or whatever. And so there was no surprise there.
No, I saw some fans on Discord were slating the club for their wording of the press release that seemed to make it feel it was a very strong end to the season for the team, neglecting the fact there was 2 0-0 draws in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The wording could have been better, considering it's a coach that I think the fan base is a little bit split on.
Just to go back to Bayern's not so great 1-0 victory over Borussia Mönchengladbach, there was a moment where a ball was played in from the left side. The keeper had come out and the ball had been played right into the center of the park. And Leroy Sané had like a wide open net and hit it first time. And Kirk said to me, what a Ricci that was.
But still have no confirmation whether he's back or not.
No, he is. I'll give you the confirmation. Want me to tweet that out? Put that out there? Breaking news.
I just like mentioning it and bringing it up. On the Valor side, Phil back is good. It's interesting it's a 1 year deal because this is definitely make or break year for him. He's got to do better. I think minimum expectation is he's got to make the playoffs now.
Yeah, with Phil, I thought it was maybe an option year, and I thought maybe they wouldn't bring him back. Maybe it's not an option year, and it's just a confirmation of guaranteed because again, we know that with Valor being owned by the Blue Bombers, it's a community organization. There's no way they have any desire to pay severance, to put that on their books. So, but if it is in fact an option, then it is a little bit surprising. But I have an appreciation for Phil DeSantis and kind of, hope he's able to come good at Valor as long as it's not at the expense of Vancouver FC.
Well, I mean, I'm going to feel bad when TSS Rovers knock him out of the Canadian Championship again.
Oh, that's right. Of course, you have your rematch. It's a rematch, right?
Yeah.
He was
in Winnipeg. Yeah.
He was the coach, right?
Yeah, he was coach. Yeah. That was his first Canadian Championship game. Canadian Championship and upsets with the DeSantis brothers go hand in hand.
Oh my.
And big heavy defeats from this year as well. It's not his favourite competition, I think he would probably say if we ask him, which we will be. But yeah, please for Phil getting in. And talking of Phil DeSantis and Valor and TSS Rovers, that brings us nicely to our first feature interview of the episode, as Zach and me sat down this week for the first of a 2-part chat with TSS Rovers sporting director and co-owner Colin Elms, and we'll be back with the first part of that after the first of 2 Britpop songs this episode.
Hello, everybody. My name is Iwan Mejia, and you're listening to the AFTN Show.
Shopping for Kickstart the weekend to get through. She's keeping the rain off her Saturday hairdo. She stops for a coffee, she smiles at the waiter. He winks at his friends and they laugh at her later. He's cleaning the car on his pebble dash driveway. New shiny leather he got for his birthday. He reads Harold Robbins, he flirts with his neighbour. Ignores her at breakfast, he's reading the paper. He dreams of a roller, she dreams of a fast getaway. He's not a prince, he's not a king. She's not a work of art or anything. It makes no sense, another year. What kind of rate is that will get you here? It's nothing special, she's not too smart. He studies fashion, she studies art. I think I told you right from the start. You were just my in-between, just my in-between. You're such an in-betweener.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the first of two Britpop songs that we're going to bring you this episode, and they're both from the same CD single. And we're kicking it off with the A-side, the big hit on the single, and it's, for me, one of the most iconic songs of the Britpop era. If you were to sit me down and say, name 20 songs from the Britpop era, this one would be one of the ones I would most certainly come up with. English band, Sleeper, led by the beautiful lead singer Louise Weiner. And that was the third single that the band released from their debut album Smart. It was released on January the 9th, 1995, making the charts the following week, peaking at number 16 in the main UK charts and number 10 in the Scottish single charts. And that was the band's big breakthrough single, In-Betweener. And we're going to play the third track from their CD and 12-inch single to kick off part 4, which incidentally is also one of my favourite Sleeper songs as well. But that is an absolute classic song, really captures the Britpop scene. And Louise Weiner used to take to the stage with a t-shirt that said another female-fronted band, because there was a lot of female-fronted bands in the Britpop era, and as I've spoken about on the show before, there's just something about female vocalists and bands. My wife says all the songs I listen to sound the same. I just love the sound of it, and that is a fantastic example of it. If you've never heard of Sleeper, definitely recommend checking out their debut album Smart, and you can find that in all the usual places. But we're going to get back to the football chat now, and we're going to get back to interviews, and we're going to bring you part 1 of a 2-part interview that we're going to run over this episode and the next one, as we turn our attention away from Major League Soccer and more locally, League 1 BC to be exact. And when you think of League 1 BC, on the women's side, you think of the unstoppable Whitecaps Girls Elite, who won their third straight championship game, the three-peat, with a fantastic bunch of young players, many of whom have gone on to college, many of whom we hope to see playing for Vancouver Rise in the years to come. And on the male side, if you think League 1 BC, you think TSS Rovers. They won the inaugural League 1 BC Championship in 2022. They should have won the 2023 regular season if it wasn't for some late heartbreak over in Victoria. but they bounced back in 2024 to claim the first ever League 1 BC double, winning the regular season before going on through the semi-finals to reach the championship game and winning their second championship trophy. And it's been a fantastic few years for the Rovers, twice, soon to be 3 times, representing League 1 BC in the Canadian Championship. They had their shock win over Valour at Swangard in a night anyone that was there will remember for a long time. That was back in 2023. They followed it up last year, almost shocking Pacific, seconds away from a 1-0 victory over on the island at Starlight Stadium before a heartbreaking late leveller and then going on to lose in penalty kicks. And they will be back in the Canadian Championship in 2025 as they travel to Winnipeg, looking for lightning to strike twice as they try to knock off Valour once again. And if they can, a huge money-spinning and PR stratospheric tie against Vancouver Whitecaps awaits. The club are also in the midst of another shares campaign. So to talk about all of that and a lot more, welcome back to the show, our good friend Colin Elms. How has your festive period been? Time to relax ahead of the big busy season ahead?
Yeah, first off, Mike, it's been a while since we've been on here. I've never been on with Zach. Hello, Zach. Appreciate you having me back on here. It's always good to chat with proper football people. I always say I love what I do for a living, but I also love not doing it. And the Christmas period allows, for the most part, there's always something. I run a business in this game. There's always something going on. But for the most part, we're able to shut things off. I usually say to my staff, unless the building's on fire, don't phone me. And usually manage to sneak out, a week to 10 days. So yeah, how about yourselves?
Yeah, it was a nice quiet one. Just glad that we're back. It seems ages ago, actually, even though it's not. It just seems ages ago that it has been Christmas, a new year. Yeah. But it's nice. We've got all this football to look ahead to in 2025. We'll get into a lot of that in our chat. First of all, though, I do want to look back at the year that was 2024. The three-peat for TSS Rovers on the men's side, the first double on the men's side as well in the league, winning the regular season, winning the championship as well. And then that dramatic Canadian championship game in Pacific that still gives me nightmares. I'm sure it still gives you nightmares. I've told this story on the show. I don't even know if I mentioned it to you at the time, that as the final whistle approached, I was sitting there with a Gatorade towel to give to Danilo as player of the game, and then it all gets tied up, and then they took the towel off me, and then it all went downhill from there, really. But how do you look back at 2024? It was a pretty wild ride and a pretty successful one. Yeah,
obviously, first of all, just to make sure, because I know people tend to bring this stuff up, we're obviously back in the Can Champ this year, coming year, late April, early May. This time we earned it. Some kind of sort of point fingers and say, you got there because so-and-so didn't go. And I don't make the rules, and I certainly don't make up the decisions about not Samant or varsity in the first year, not, getting granted access and unfortunately our friends at Highlanders packing it in. But we were at the doorstep and ready to go. And so that's what we do. Yeah. And so obviously that was the first sort of match for us. And again, in 90 minutes, as we well know in this game, anything can happen. And yeah, we were, defending for long stretches of that match. And then obviously snatched a goal in I think the 76th minute. And then of course the clock just slows right down to like nothing. And then 9 minutes of stoppage time. And And honestly, we were in a booth right down on the goal line that we were defending in the second half. And these guys are obviously at us, right? And Danilo goes to clear that ball and he doesn't hit it hard enough. I think if it had gone out of play, I think the game would have ended. And of course, it got collected, it got cut back, and then it got knocked to the far post, and then it's in, right? And I don't know if you remember, Mike, and I'm sure you do. Maybe Zach remembers this as well, but Kyle Jones almost chipped the goalkeeper from 50 yards.
I mean, that would have been goal of the season.
Oh my God.
I think if that had gone in. I mean, that
kind of glanced off the crossbar as it hit the top of the net. So, but I'll say this: I'm sitting there, and the whole booth we're in is just like charged, right? Like the people are super excited and nervy and whatnot. And I'm sitting there as the clock's ticking down, because this is how I think, and I'm going, where are we going to play this next game? Because I didn't have Swangard, wasn't open yet because of the track. So I'm like, on the one hand, my heart's beating out of my chest and I'm excited. And the other one, I'm going, I don't know what we're going to do here. Where are we going to play? And how are we,
how are you going to be able to afford Ottawa to fly?
All that stuff too, right? And whatnot. And so once everything calmed down, I know this probably sounds a bit weird, but we lost in the most perfect way. And it allowed us to not have to deal with all the stuff afterwards. And I know from a footballing perspective, that sounds like weird, but there was the business side of it as well. And so we went away from that game. I spent a few minutes on the field with James Merriman at the end of the game, and he was incredibly complimentary and basically said, I thought that was over. Like that was hard, right? That was really, really hard for us. And so I'm excited. What are we? We're one win, one draw in 90 minutes and one loss in 90 minutes in Can Champ in 3 games. And
that's not bad.
Yeah, if I'm a CPL team and you got us coming up, I'm probably not real thrilled with that, just because of how it's been handled. Now, saying that, we might get drubbed in Winnipeg and it'll be over, but
oh yeah, this is now bulletin board stuff for Valor, so well done.
I'm, me, Mike, I'm pretty unfiltered and transparent, so it's I know the challenge. I already, to be honest with you, as soon as the draw happened, I actually texted Phil, not to like bug him. I actually said to him, when do you think the game's going to be? And he was kind of like, calm down, Colin, the CPL schedule's not out yet. Because honestly, I want to book the flights as early as possible because they're cheaper, right? It's like
WestJet just now, I've got 15% off.
Yeah. So I'm hoping in the next, I don't know, do you know when the CPL schedule's out?
Yeah, actually, Zach, have you any idea?
It'll be out this month. I just don't know when. I think last year was end of January.
Once that gets established, then they'll pick a Wednesday, right? And then we.
I know it's a 2-week window, but obviously we just don't know when it is.
Yeah. So there's that game, and then the league. You look at the roster we had for the first couple of games. I said to Tilo, I said, "There's too many good players here. There's going to be." I actually said to him at game 4, there's going to be problems because there's guys sitting on the bench that should be on the field, right? And lo and behold, and then some left us. Kang, right? There, a couple guys left for greener pastures, as they say, and then of course 1 or 2 of our senior players went, I don't want to do this anymore. Partway through the season, and so honestly, I think we went 3 wins, and then we went 3 draws. Is that right, Mike? Yeah. And then we lost to the Caps at home in stoppage time. And literally that was like a watershed moment. I was like, this is either going to tip off the deep end and go downhill really fast, or somehow we're going to solve this. And to the credit of the staff and to the players, and some young players that had stepped in, we rattled off 6 out of 7 wins in the last section. And the game we lost, we chucked. That was the Harbor game where out a bunch of people. Now, we weren't happy. We were 3-0 down at halftime, but we probably should have scored a couple goals in the second half of that game. We ran that game from the 45-minute point onwards. But that, honestly, the fact that this group, with all that went on, was able to solve this problem and put 2 trophies in our cabinet and get us on the map, and from a footballing perspective again, was astonishing to me. And I'm not claiming any part of the success there.
Oh no, it's all Tilo.
Nothing
to do with you.
They spent too much time chewing on my nails for the last month and a half of the season, and so, you know, credit to the boys there to solve it. And what a crazy cup final game!
Oh,
like, you know, for somebody like me, I was like had like 4 heart attacks while the game was going on. But for a neutral, you know, we score in the first 7 seconds, right? We're 2-0 up at halftime, cruising, right? We give up a goal early, well-earned goal. They win a penalty, which was soft. The guy scores. We go down the other end. We win a penalty. It's soft. Eric scores. And then they win another penalty, and it's soft. And it's all in, I think, Mike, it was all in like an 8-minute period, wasn't it?
Yeah. And as commentator on that, it's like, I've never talked so much in a final 10 minutes of a match ever. It was amazing I had a voice left by the end of it. And
that poor guy that took the first one slotted it really well, you know, 10 feet over the bar or whatever it was, right at the end. You know, I felt badly for him because he had his moment there for sure. But
like, I mean, altitude pushed you all the way, regular season and the final, and it was good to see that as well, because you're wanting the league to be competitive, and you want the games to go down to the wire. And we'll talk a little bit about this season and how it's going to be a bit of a different setup. I mean, you mentioned Canadian Championship, the big game obviously coming up with Valor, a chance to do what you did 2 years ago, this time away from home. And looming on the horizon largely is, if you get past Valor, and Valor will look as well, or if you get past TSS,
correct,
you've got the Whitecaps. Now, for a club like yours, financially, a game against the Whitecaps can set you up for a couple of years.
Agreed. So here's the deal, Mike. If you, as you would do, because you're the football guy that does this sort of stuff, you were to present to me 6 or 7 different options from the draw, and one of the options was the one that we ended up with, I would have reached out and grabbed that one in a second. Now, obviously, having to fly to Winnipeg, oh well, right? But the ability to know who we play next was paramount. And then to get the opportunity, if we can somehow solve this game, to play somebody who's literally down the block, who is not going to cost any money to bring into Swangard to play, unless they charge us for the bus.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're needing to raise money now, so
yeah. And then on top of that, I think you guys know this, the Whitecaps themselves have been donating to a League1 fund for hosting. And I had a meeting with BC Soccer 2 months ago, not knowing what the draw was going to be. But I said to Gabriel Assis at BC Soccer, I said, look, by my calculations, you got about 16 to 20K sitting there. And I know half of it's for the women, women's interprovincial hosting. But I said to him, I hope this isn't based on the fact that you're only going to use it if you think the club is going to lose money, right? Don't punish us for getting it right. And he agreed. He's basically said to me right at that moment, Colin, we would never. And then, of course, this ends up happening. And so I went back to him and I said, okay, I know we got to play this game and stuff, but if we somehow escape that game on the right side of the results, yeah, how about some help, right? Pay for Swangard, pay for the ambulance support, pay for whatever, right? Give us some kind of help with it. And he's basically said, yeah, that's what it's there for. And so
good.
So yeah.
From recruitment wise as well.
Yes.
Knowing you've got this game as well obviously helps. You've still got to get to that game. But it's like it's a huge carrot for players that want to be seen, want to get noticed.
Agreed.
Do you have Swangard booked for that game against the Whitecaps?
Well, I actually, because this is me, as soon as it happened, I went and looked at the Whitecap schedule. And thankfully, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. You guys are putting me in this position, but I have Swangard booked on Tuesday, May 21st and Wednesday, May 22nd.
Excellent.
It's available. Well, not in one of the days they're still working on, but they know how huge this is, right? Because clearly Burnaby, you drag 5,000-6,000 people to Swangard, Burnaby makes a ton of dough, right? The concession and like the cost of the stadium, right? Because what happens is it happens in increments. If you get 500 people at Swangard, you pay a certain amount. If you expect 1,000, you pay a certain amount. You get above 1,000 to 2,500, you get pay a certain amount. You get above 2,500, and it goes up even more incrementally, right? And so, yeah, this is I think they know that this is potentially on the horizon, and so hopefully they can make that work. And then I understand the following fixtures not till July.
Yeah, and then after that, you'll be in the open draw for the semi-finals.
Oh, listen to this guy. That's not me saying it.
Yeah, but the bad thing about the second leg in July, though, is if the first leg's a blowout, what's the incentive for fans to come along to the second leg? So then do you, like, how does it actually work? Because obviously in England, FA Cup, in Scotland, Scottish Cup, it's 50-50 gate receipts. That's
we get everything. So the beauty of it from our perspective, and anybody, frankly, in League One, is the little guy always gets the first home mat. And so, yeah, because you can imagine, little TSS Rovers shows up at BC Place and loses 8-0. Who's coming to Swangard, even if it's a week later or a month or 2 months later. And so yeah, we get that one opportunity to hold on for dear life.
Excellent.
See what happens, right? And so,
now, in all seriousness, though, that would be a really magical night at Swangard, right? Like the White first team against TSS at Swangard, the place they both have called home. I think, yeah, it would be. Yeah. Like, how many people could you fit into Swangard for an occasion like that?
Well, I'm sure there's some fire marshal regulations there. We know you can look up the capacity at Swangard. I can't even remember. It's something below 5,000, but that's just the seated area.
That's what I mean. You can fit a lot more.
As you guys know, because you've been there, you got our Swangardian section, and then, frankly, as they did a few years back, you can drink a beer down on the track and stand on the barrier and watch from field level. And so, yeah, if this happens, we're gonna, within safety reasons and guardrails, we're gonna try and get as many people in there as we possibly can. And so, yeah. And who wouldn't want to come to something like that? Like I would, TSS Rovers aside, this is Burnaby FC or Altitude. I'm there in a second, right? This is an epic moment of football that never was allowed to happen up until 2023, right? This idea that these amateur teams get a sniff at this stuff.
Oh, it's great. It's what I love, and it's like it's what football should be all about. And as I said, it will set you up financially.
Yep. And
I mean, but we'll dig into a little bit into the finances. I don't know how much stuff you can share or want to share, but like you've had 3 years now in League1 BC.
Yep.
And we'll talk about the share issue in a sec as well. But how much do you feel you've put in? How much have you lost in those first 3 years?
This is if you were a fly on the wall for our discussions, at the league level with CSB. This is hard, Mike. You and I have talked privately about some of this stuff. Like I'll share this. This is an open book. This is a incorporated company. You can come to the AGM, right? In 2023 with the Valor game, Valor cost us to get Valor here and put them in hotels and feed them and transport them around, $39,000. The game itself was probably another 15. And I'm going to say, even with our, I don't know, what did we have there, Mike? 2,500 people? Yeah.
I don't
20.
know how much you legally announced, but yeah.
Yeah. We probably lost 20K on that game. But from an exposure perspective, the sky was the limit there. We were like on the news, we were in the newspapers, all that sort of business. And so overall,
I very much remember from the next day,
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
thankfully I wasn't working. And then I had all the media getting in touch of, oh, we want to speak to this player at 12 o'clock today. And it's like, these guys work and have jobs.
Yeah. So with Valor and that business adding into the normal fare of doing this, the 2023, we lost 80K. And then
Wow.
last season, our financials just came out. We lost 60. This is hard. If you can squeeze more than 20, 25K out of a sponsor per season, you're like doing cartwheels, right? It's a difficult go. And then, there's some restrictions now because of the CSB. And
I was going to say you're kind of hamstrung a bit with the sponsors as well as to the kind that you're allowed.
Yeah, the league, to their credit, has kind of realized, because we kind of dug our feet in, that they got to cooperate. But here's the problem, right? And one of our clubs brought this up in a meeting the other day. The league kind of said, hey, we've relaxed that a little bit. We're okay with, CIBCs on the sleeve of the jerseys, but you can still pursue a bank for, but the problem is the bank coming in doesn't want CIBC on the jersey, right? And so right away, that's a negative for them, right? They're like, okay, that's like, we're a chartered bank. We're in competition with those guys. If we're giving you X amount of money and you're putting our logo on the front of your jersey as your title sponsor, we don't want that thing on the sleeve, right? And so it makes convincing some of these people, it makes it difficult, right? And so yeah, we brought in our friends from Blackfin Sports last year, some very polished professionals from the Canuck organization, and I said to them, and I've learned a bunch from them, frankly. They're great guys. I said to them when we brought them in, I said, especially the sponsor guy, James Douglas, who'd been working, he's the head portfolio guy for the Canucks for years. I said, James, you've been selling, Mercedes-Benz off a high-end car lot. I said, you're about to sell a 15-year-old Honda off a used car lot on Kingsway. I said, good luck, man. And of course they went off and did manage to find us some new money, but it's hard, right? Like people are like, what is this? And whatnot. And is this the CPL? What is the CPL? And so it's you don't have the audience like you would in the UK where football is the most important thing going, and companies are excited about getting their name involved, whether it's on a banner or on the jersey or on the training gear or whatever. And so it's a difficult sell. And so yeah, this is a labor of love that has to get better at making sure that we make $1 each season. And in the meantime, yeah, the league, we keep going to the league and saying, that Gatorade sponsorship and that CIBC and that Carlsberg, and we got to find a way, like we need help, right? You got to help us with this, and not hamstring us and say, well, we got a beer. You can't have a beer, right? Like, I don't know. You guys know we've had Parallel 49 since day one in 2017. I don't know if Parallel 49 would have stepped up if they were aware of the fact that the league is, pushing another beer company, right, as their primary sponsor. So yeah, it's we keep plugging away every season, right? We keep kind of, okay, right, let's do it. squeeze another 5Gs out of him and that group over there and this group and bring this group in. And that's all been somewhat underway now. And of course, we got another phase of our share offering, which I know you guys probably want to talk a little bit about as well. So yeah, we're trying as many ways of making this boat float.
Colin, I hear you in that. Yeah, the sponsorship side of things is hard, and definitely. I mean, I know even for the CPL, the whole education side and helping people understand, what the league is a challenge. So I can imagine it being even, maybe not exponential, but even, significant for League1 BC. But when you talk about financials, yeah, that tied into the shares, I guess as someone who's unlike Michael, so I'm different than Michael. I'm not an owner. I'm not a shareholder. So I'm more on the outside. But like, yeah, if you can help me, and I guess just help our listeners understand how that works, because I mean, you're talking about 2 years in League1 BC, $140,000 of debt or whatever the right term is for that. Is that offset by the money that the owners have put in, or like what is the money that all the shared money has raised? Where does that money go? How is that used?
Yeah,
only certain things it could be used for. And
totally transparent here. First off, you can go and look at this without being an owner. It's on Front, and then Funder is fundr.com, and you go to opportunities, and our opportunity is sitting on the front page, and you click on it, and you can scroll down. You see our story, see how much money we've raised to date, see what's in the barrel with this next one, and then there's some documents down the bottom, an offering document. Yeah, it's a bit cumbersome and heavy, and our deck, which is our advertising deck, which has a little less information in it, but definitely the offering document shows what the funds are used for. And so here's what I'll say to you. Up until this one, so the previous raise, and we've raised $260K. 40% went to sales and marketing, or can go to sales and marketing. 40% can go to human resources and operations, which is basically paying people to do stuff. And 20% was set aside for what we call facility development, which really is kind of savings for something right down the road. And so that was part of the so yeah, everybody that dug in and got invested in this, if they read the documents, could see that this wasn't us parking this money in some account and putting it in a term deposit and walking away from it. This was about helping to make this run, essentially. And I'll say this to you right now, because I'm transparent and unfiltered. We raised 260. Front Funder's not cheap. Probably cost us 25 to 30 grand in fees.
Oof! Wow.
Yeah, exempt market, special sort of market stuff. Yeah, you get charged for this stuff, right? You've already heard of our losses, 80 and 60, and a little bit, probably 10 to 15 in the first year. For various reasons, it was lower, and we got about 80K in the bank, and 80K in the bank is well above the 20% that we've set aside for facility development. Now, we keep losing money. That might go and might have to be pushed towards operations, but it's always our goal to try and raise more money to make this thing work. I.e., I know, it's a dream, but somehow playing that game at Swangard would help here to make this thing. Yeah, and so you can imagine, I'm not pretending to know what goes on in some of the other environments, but we've had a fair bit of success, and we get a decent crowd at Swangard for the most part, right? You can imagine where some of the other groups might be at. Now, they may raise more money sponsorship-wise. I'm not privy to that, but this is difficult. And so, yeah, the financial viability of soccer at this level is always a giant challenge. So this current offering, we've changed the formula a little bit for various reasons. We're 25% towards marketing and sales. 40% is still for the human resources and the operations. and 35% towards facility development. So we've actually upped what you would call the savings part of it. And I'm going to be absolutely open here. I've said this to Mike many times, and anybody that's willing to listen. Brendan Quarry and Colin Elms, who are kind of the main guys here for the most part. I've been doing this. I'm about to start the 7th season of this. This entity has never paid me a penny. And this is what I do for a living. I have been pro bono in the League1 and USL, PDL, WPSL, and it consumes a massive amount of my time. And yeah, I've never paid myself a penny, and either has Brendan. We pay our coaching staff. Clearly we paid Blackfin for their services over the last little while. We obviously have all the expenses of running this team, traveling to Kamloops, traveling to Nanaimo, renting Swangard and stuff like that. Yeah, I do this for free. Now, some people out there might not believe that, but that is the 100% truth. And so I wish I could pay myself, because this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I love it. And it's done amazing things for our organization from an optics kind of branding, out there in the world kind of thing, but which you can't put a price on, frankly. But yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And it's not like confined to just February to August, right? Like I've been building our team since November.
So what you say there, Colin, thanks for sharing with that.
Yes, no problem.
Two questions for me. Number one, the shareholders and stuff, that's for the League1 BC stuff, right?
Yes.
And again, you can't share this or whatever, but has all the success, whether it's from the USL PDL kind of time and players who've been a part, or the more recent victory over Valor and whatnot, and League1 success, have you seen a significant increase in the academy side of things? Because that's where you do get a paycheck, right?
Yeah, just so Zach, when we first started this, it was all going through our sort of what we call TSS Football Club Inc., right? When we decided to go and offer shares, we had to create a separate entity, and it's called Rovers Football Club Limited. And so I'm a part owner of that. So is Brendan. So is Will Cromack. And then so is Mike McCall and all the 450 other people. The branding clearly is the same, right? I'm going to say I've been in the youth soccer world for over 30 years now, making my living. And this is not a shot by any stretch of the imagination, but the majority of parents who have kids in youth soccer stare at the 2-yard circle around their kids' feet. And because of that, they don't see the big picture. And, maybe they didn't grow up in the game. They don't understand club culture, whatever it is and whatnot. I'm going to say that what's happened with our number one teams, our men's and women's teams, and the fact that we're playing at Swangard and clearly have had some success over the last few years has probably given us some more cachet and maybe has perked people up a little bit more, but it's hard to measure. What we do at our place is, and Swangard is a bit crowded now with the Rise coming in. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that. Am I supposed to say that? And we've tried to be on Friday nights at Swangard, because what we can do is we can stand down from our youth program, which is what, like, if Liverpool's playing at Anfield, do you think any of the youth players are playing soccer at that moment? They're not. They're all there, right? They're around it. They're taking it all in. And so we started doing that years ago. And I'll be honest with you, it was a struggle, because, of course, the families were like, why are we canceling training tonight? Why are you making us come to Swangard? We don't understand this, right? And over the years, most of them have started to kind of go, hey, you know what? This is pretty cool, right? My kid comes, she's a ball girl, right? There's like 500-600 people here, and they're all cheering for TSS, and once they started to come, I think they got a bit more sort of comfortable with the fact that, yeah, every couple of Fridays when we have a home game, we're all coming here, right? And we put it on what's called Team Snap. We have like all these platforms for our teams, and the players tick their availability. And yeah, some people don't come, but a lot more come now than have never ever come before. And so if you ask me a reason why we did this years ago, it was for that. It was for them to come and witness and be a part of hopefully a football culture that gives them hope, right? And says, hey, you could play here one day, right? You see that guy over there, Chris Schmidt, playing in the game. He was in our program when he was 8, right? And look where he is, right? He's there. He's playing football on the beautiful grass at Swangard. So
has it increased? Like, it has that, like, has it drawn more youth to the academy because of you've had players like, or because even, yeah, you've had players like that, or you've had players like whatever, Waterman, or,
yep,
people come through that have, like, is that drawn?
I think you gotta constantly educate people on this. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Zach, but Christine Sinclair trained at TSS from 13 to 16 years old, right? I knew the family. I know the family really well. The dad, I played at Vancouver Firefighters. The dad was our manager, right? And whatnot. So people like that stuff, right? Stuff they can grab onto and think about. I'm not totally convinced that it brings them into our program. I think when they're at our program and they hear that sort of stuff, they're like, I'm in the right place, and they look at it in those ways. It's kind of hard to really tell. Outside of our academy, which is the once a week training, which we've done for 27 years, our club is kind of what we call sort of zero sum. Like we have no interest in getting any bigger. Our graduating players go out the top, and our new U11s come in underneath. And we keep the same amount of players in our club essentially every year. There's about 400. 150 of them are VAFC Rovers, which is our alliance partner, and 250 are TSS Rovers. But we're kind of under the same methodology, under the same banner. And I'm going to say, do the academy players that come to Richmond Olympic Oval to train with us, do they care that we have a League One team at Swangard? I'm not so sure they do. I think they just hear that we provide a good platform to teach kids detailed technical stuff in the game, and they come, and it spreads by word of mouth and whatnot. And so our academy numbers they've dwindled because there's so many academies out there now, and people are, I think, going to these academies based on geography more so. Yeah. Like, it's just down the street. Why am I driving to Richmond to go to TSS and stuff? But our academy numbers most of our intakes are around 250 players. It's stayed pretty consistent over the last few years. So yeah, it's telling the story, Zach, it has to literally every couple of weeks you have to talk about it, right? You have to talk about why we're doing this, because I don't think too many people understand what a soccer club is, what a proper soccer club is here. They see soccer clubs as outlets where they go and play for a little while, and then they move up.
Yeah.
They move up, right? And they leave that club and they go to a different platform. And North American sports is kind of built like that. And so they have a real hard time understanding, that if I'm in the Real Madrid Sporting Club, I can play basketball, water polo, handball, football, right? I'm sure there's other things that happen in that environment. It's literally a life club for me. Yeah. Right? I can be a 50-year-old man and I'm still playing soccer that's somehow affiliated or connected to Real Madrid, right? And we don't have that stuff here, right? It doesn't really exist. So.
And I hear what you're saying too. Like, yeah, vision dies in, like 28 days. And so, yeah, you have to keep telling those stories. And you have to keep showing the vision of what you're doing and stuff. So that makes sense.
Well, I think that's a good place to cut our chat for now. We've still got a lot more to talk to you about, Colin. Want to talk about the League1 BC season to come, League1 Canada as a whole, the whole ecosystem of Canadian soccer right now, and maybe put out a few little teasers as well about a possible new stadium for the Rovers, along with things like what will the legacy be locally from the 2026 World Cup. So much more to talk to you about, Colin. We will keep that for the next show. But we're going to keep the local chat going. We're going to keep the interviews going now as we turn our attention to the college scene and what a year it was in 2024 for BC colleges, especially U Sport double champions, the UBC Thunderbirds. We'll be talking about that and bring you an interview with one of the men of the moment for the Thunderbirds this year, Whitecaps Academy alumni Jovan Mann. And we'll be back with all of that after our second Britpop song from Sleeper.
Hi, I'm Joel Waterman, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the B-side to the song that kicked off part 3, Sleeper, from their single In-Betweener, and that was Disco Duncan, one of my favourite Sleeper songs. And I've spoken about this before when we're playing the Britpop songs, and for any new listeners wondering why are you playing Britpop songs, end of last year into this year, we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Britpop. Can't believe it's been 30 years since I was buying all these singles, going to see all these bands live, festivals galore, so many happy memories, just a great time of my life altogether. And in the Britpop era, it was like a heyday for CD singles, and bands put a lot of thought into what was on the B-sides, and they were exclusive songs to the CD singles, and some bands' best stuff featured as B-sides on those singles. That was one of them, Disco Duncan from Sleeper. And we'll be back with some more Britpop music next episode, along with another song from our album of the month from the Rakes. But we'll get back to the football chat now, and we're turning attention to the college game. And as I mentioned at the end of the last part, what a year 2024 was in the college game for the BC colleges and universities. Success all around the board on a team level, on an individual basis as well. You had Capilano Blues winning their first medal at CCAA Nationals in the women's side for over 20 years, winning bronze on home turf at Squamish back in November, and I had the pleasure of commentating at those finals. SFU Red Leafs on the women's side won another GNAC trophy before being screwed over in the draw for the playoffs and having to take a lower seed and go out against very strong opposition. And in U Sports, doing the double in Canada West on the men and the women's side, and doing the double in U Sports, a historic double, the first university to win the men's U Sport Championship and the women's U Sport Championship in the same year was UBC Thunderbirds. On the women's side, UBC went back-to-back at Nationals, and they were made to work hard at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia, defeating Laval 1-0 to win their 9th U-Sport title and crowning off an amazing, undefeated season. The Invincibles went 21-0, 20 wins over 90 minutes. One of those victories needed extra time, but an absolutely tremendous achievement for Jessie Simons' side. And we're speaking about League One in the last part. Jessie Simons is going to be back in League One for the 2025 season in charge of altitude in North Vancouver. And I'm sure he'll be taking a number of the UBC girls with him to play in that team, and really looking forward to seeing what he can do. And that should make them very strong contenders, along with the Whitecaps girls, for the 2025 League 1 BC title. We'll speak to Jessie in a future show as well. That 9th title win sees UBC as the university with the most U Sports women's soccer national titles, matching their men's counterparts with that record, as the UBC Thunderbirds men claimed their 14th U Sports Championship, their first, incredibly, since 2013. And I spoke about the drama in 2023 when the UBC women won the national title with a very late goal in extra time. The men this year won their 14th title thanks to Jovan Mann's header. Kind of came off his shoulder, I guess, but we'll put it down as a header. Deep in second half stoppage time, basically the last kick off the game, and it cued jubilant scenes out in Oshawa in Ontario and capped off a tremendous season for Mike Mosher's side, and a fantastic individual season as well for Jovan Mann. The Whitecaps Academy alumni come into UBC officially as a rookie, but not your kind of traditional rookie. The 19-year-old from Surrey had been in the Whitecaps system for a number of years. He was actually voted the Whitecaps Under-19 Player of the Year back in 2022, had featured on the bench for WFC2 before taking a year off just to do some travelling and decide what he wanted to do. What he did want to do in the end was to go to college, went to UBC, and there's been no looking back for the midfielder who can play in a variety of positions in the midfield and forward positions, and finished the year with 6 goals and 3 assists. 3 of those goals coming at Nationals, and he certainly turned a lot of heads along the way, none more so than Halifax Wanderers head coach Patrice Geyser, who selected Jovan Mann second with Halifax's pick in the 2025 CPL U Sports draft. Jovan will be heading east to Halifax to join them for their pre-season as he looks to break through into that roster and get his first chance playing in the CPL. And I got a chance to catch up with Jovan Mann a couple of weeks ago just to talk about the tremendous 2024 that he's had, that wonderful moment in the National Championship game that will live with him forever, and to look ahead to the challenge of Halifax in the CPL in 2025. So go, stick the kettle on again, grab another biscuit of choice and join us for our second feature interview this episode with Whitecaps Academy alumni, current UBC Thunderbird, and hopefully Halifax Wanderer, Jovan Mann.
You're my wanderer, little wanderer, off across the sea. You're my wanderer, little wanderer, won't you wander back to me, back to me.
So, welcome to the show. First time on the show. Player, watched for a number of years, coming through the Whitecaps, playing with UBC, playing in League One, and about to start off an exciting journey in CPL. Welcome, Jovan.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
What a year 2024 has been for you. I mean, do you look back at this as, is this the best year of your footballing life so far?
Yeah, I'd say so. For sure. Yeah. I mean, after League1 BC in the summer and, a great year at UBC, I would definitely say it was a really good year for me.
And of course, you're coming off the back of two title wins in college, Canada West title, U Sports title, drafted now into the CPL. I mean, for a rookie, this must have gone better than even your wildest dreams.
Yeah, no, coming in, I was super excited. I knew a lot of the players, so I felt comfortable. Um, I wouldn't really consider myself obviously as a rookie. I know
Yeah.
I am, but uh, you know, a rookie would be quite a few years younger. But yeah, I came in comfortable, confident, and yeah, I was happy to win. And yeah,
Yeah, I was going to mention that because when I've spoken to Mike at the start of the season and also last year as well, what he's done very well at UBC is the guys that he's brought in as rookies. It's like you're not normal rookies. It's like you've got a lot of experience under your belts, and you took a gap year off, didn't you?
yeah, just after the second year at Whitecaps, I took a gap year.
And did you just do
Well,
some traveling and?
I just did some school. I did end up having an injury, so I was out of soccer for a while. I think it was about 4 months. I had fractured my foot, so yeah, I just took time off soccer there, and yeah, tried to get back into it ASAP.
So, for anyone that doesn't know you, you came through in the Whitecaps Academy, and then you featured in and around WFC2, and obviously it's a tough decision now for guys. It's like, do you go down the college route? Do you try and stay in MLS Next Pro or in the CPL? What was it that made you decide in the end that college was the route you wanted to go down?
Yeah, so after Whitecaps, it was difficult, trying to find my feet again, trying to get back into a pro environment. So I felt that going to school was, a new pathway for me. And I know that UBC has a great foundation there, and their pathway is obviously very good with previous players going to CPL. And yeah, I found that would be a great opportunity and a great exposure for me, and I decided to go that way.
Because you were named the Whitecaps Under-19 Player of the Year back in 2022, so they obviously thought very highly of you. Was being a pro footballer like something you'd wanted for a long time? When did you first know that you wanted to be a pro, and when did you first think, oh, I've got the skills to be a pro?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a dream of mine to become a professional footballer. Since a kid, it was always a dream. And of course, I didn't get into the Whitecaps Academy until I believe it was 2021. So there was a good period where I felt that, I deserved to be at a higher level, but I wasn't quite getting there. And when I did get there, and I know I got the player of the year, and, opportunities were coming, but unfortunately I wasn't offered a pro contract. It was a bit of a bummer, and, I didn't let that really affect me too much. So yeah, I decided to keep going, and I'm happy where I am now.
Yeah. So, I mean, you would have probably had the chance to go down to NCAA as well, but choosing to stay in Canada, was it just because you know what a good program it is, both soccer-wise, but also educational-wise? You kind of touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I know UBC is the top school in here in Canada, and it's close to home as well. So yeah, and also their soccer program is obviously top here in Canada, and yeah, that's why I chose UBC.
So, I mean, your first year in the college game, I know you'd played a bit over the summer in League One, but when you're coming to college, sometimes it can be a little bit different. And I mean, I think your season started maybe a little bit slow before you kind of really found your feet. Is that how you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, I know the transition was a bit different from League1 BC to the university level. I think with me, the only issue was it was just a different environment.
Mm.
Yeah, I did feel like the first bit of the season maybe wasn't my best, but I started to get comfortable, starting to know the system, understand the system, and yeah, Mike was very, very open with me and allowed me to really get comfortable with the players and the system and understand everything well.
I spoke to Brennan first towards the end of the season, and something I'd said in commentary during a lot of the games is when you and Brennan were on the pitch at the same time in the middle of the park, it was a much different team. And he spoke about how much he enjoyed playing alongside of you. I'm assuming the feeling was mutual.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I've played with him for quite a few years now, and we understand each other really well. Along with Luke, we understand each other really well as well. Yeah, we've been playing together for quite some time, and I feel the connection is quite there.
And you've got the versatility as well because you can play in so many different positions. And I mean, when I saw you coming through Whitecaps wise, you were obviously a lot in midfield, attacking midfielder, but you really seem to find your feet, I felt this year when you got pushed further forward. And I think we saw that in League One as well. Do you like the more advanced position?
I do, yeah. I think, of course, my offensive skills is a lot better than my defensive skills. Yeah, up. I think I am better up the field. I can create more, and I think I could do a lot better for the team when I'm higher up the field.
So I checked some of your stats coming into this because it's like I forget you're just 20 years old because I've watched you playing for so long, and it's like I'm looking at things and it's like, oh yeah, he's still so young. But you were fourth in the team at UBC with 6 goals. And in the first 11 games, you just got 1 goal and 1 assist before really finding your scoring burst. What clicked?
I'm not too sure, honestly. I felt that, in order to, because my goal obviously was to get drafted, and I knew that, I need to ramp things up. I need to do better. And of course, I want to do better for the team always. And yeah, just decided to, focus more mentally, try to eat healthier, and, just focus more pretty much.
So at Nationals, 3 goals, 1 assist, dramatic stoppage time winner to win a national title. How many times have you watched that moment back?
Oh, quite a few. Especially when I got back home from Oshawa. Yeah, I had family sending me congratulations and all that. It was awesome.
Because I was watching it live and gutted that I wasn't there in person because I'd planned to go and I thought, oh, this year I'm going to go out east and go to nationals. But then I got the chance to commentate on the women's CCAA nationals in Squamish.
Okay.
So I was sitting watching the final here, and when that went in, I screamed so loud I actually pulled something. It's like just the sheer joy of that moment. I mean, that's just going to live in your memory forever.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, especially after it being quite some time since UBC last won a national championship, and yeah, no, it was just a very proud moment for me.
Yeah, because I wasn't commentating on the team back then, but I was going along watching, and I remember that team so well. And there's been so many good teams that's come through UBC since then that I've thought, oh, this is the year they're going to win it. And to be totally honest, I didn't know that this, because it was a younger team and there's been a lot of transition. And coming into the season, I was like, I didn't know where the goals were coming from, with Seb moving on and stuff. But it really surprised me. Just the team all season were strong, but when it gets to the playoff, Mike seems to be able to just take the team to another level. What is it like playing under Mike? He's obviously been in charge of the program for such a long time.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. He's honest. He's a really good coach. I love the system that he plays. It fits me really well as a player, and yeah, everybody was happy, and yeah, it's a great feeling to play under him.
And I guess it's tough now as well because it's the same on the women's side. Because there's a couple of players on the women's team that have only been with the program for 2 years and they've won 2 national titles. So it's like in your first year, you're at the top. It's hard to follow that up. So it's like anything else now. It's like you've peaked at year one. It's like you've got to go and do the double now. Assuming you're still in college, which we'll come to in a sec.
Yeah, yeah, no, it'll definitely be hard to top that, to top my first year. Mike said that as well. It was, a dramatic ending, a great ending to it. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what next year has in store for me, and yeah.
So let's talk about next year then. So you were drafted and you're heading to Halifax. Going into the draw, the 2 guys I thought, well, if they're going to pick folk, it's going to be yourself and Henri, just as 2 of the standout guys. I think there's other guys that deserve to be drafted, but they always look at the stats and they always want the young guys, always want the rookies as opposed to the year 3 and the year 4 guys. Did you have any inkling that Halifax were going to take you? Had you had discussions with them?
Yeah, so Patrice, the head coach there, he did call me, I think it was a couple of days before the draft, and he was just asking if I'd be interested, just the protocols, if I would be able to transition from school, do it online, just all that. And yeah, I was on board, and yeah.
I mean, you couldn't be going further away from home as well. After talking about being at UBC and being close to home, have you been to Halifax before?
No, I have not. I have not been there.
I
So I'm
haven't
excited.
either.
Very excited.
So I hope to get out there because it looks an amazing fan base. It's the best fan base in the CPL. And your chance to play in front of that crowd must be quite exciting as well.
Oh yeah, very. I've seen videos on their fan base and their pitch. It's a grass pitch as well, so I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
I've got to know Patrice a little bit over the last couple of years. He's a quite a good character. He's really intense, and he seems like a coach that's going to be fun to work with, but also be a hard taskmaster and bring the best out of you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he seems like someone who's honest, and he'll tell you right from wrong, and push a player to the limit.
So I mean, going pro, that is your ultimate goal. Then I mean, I know looking far ahead and stuff, but if they were to offer you a full deal, or someone else came in, are you prepared to say, well, okay, that's where my future's going to go, or do you want to be like an Eric Lajeunesse and say, no, I want to get all my schooling done first?
I think right now, I think it would be a good idea just to maintain my school eligibility. Considering it's still quite early, and I do want to complete school as well. Yeah, so I think right now, if I was offered a pro deal, it would just be something I'd have to think about, and yeah.
Yeah, I know it's tough. I don't want to really put you too much on the spot, but what do you feel you need to work on now in your game to take your game to the next level?
Well, I've seen the pro level, and the difference between the U Sports level and the pro level is a difference. I think for me, the biggest difference for me would be to to adapt that to the intensity of the footballing level there. Yeah, I think that would be my biggest concern. And
so last thing really, what does the next couple of weeks and months look like for you? When do you head out to Halifax? I know last year they actually had their training camp out here, so I don't know if they're planning on doing that again or not, but I mean, that would be ideal for you. But it's like, take it, you can do your schooling online. So what do the next few weeks or months look like for you?
Yeah, so right now I'm just planning on transitioning my semester 2 classes to online, and they told me I'd be heading out in February. So that's all I have right now.
Okay, cool. And what is it you're studying?
I'm in kinesiology, yeah.
I know so many of the guys are in that. I mean, it's been a fantastic year for you. It's been a fantastic year for the program. I mean, it's the first time in history that the men and the women have both won national titles at the same time, and you're a special part of that program. It's been a pleasure watching you this year and really coming into your own, and I just wish you all the very best for what is to come.
Thank you very much.
That's great. Cheers, Jovan.
You're my wonder, little wonder, off across the sea. You're my wonder, little wonder, won't you wander back to me, back to me.
Fantastic stuff from Jovan Man there, and wish him all the very best as he looks to break into that Halifax roster. Great place to go, out in one of the best environments in the CPL with the best crowd in the CPL as well. Really looking forward to following his progress. He's definitely got all the skills, all the attributes to make it in the pro game. And as Jovan himself said there, wanted to kind of get a new experience. He's kind of glad in many ways that it wasn't one of the BC teams that selected him, because it gives him a chance to move away from home, make a name for himself on the other side of the country, and we'll certainly follow his progress very closely. So that is pretty much it for the show, but of course we can't finish without this episode's wavelength. For those of you new to the show, wavelength is this section of the show where we play a song all about football, either by a proper band or artist, could be by a football team, could even be from a footballer themselves. All meshed together by the fact it's all about football. Zach feels sometimes there's maybe a bit of a tenuous link to football. There might just be the odd phrase in the song or whatever. And he might think that for this one as well. We're going back to 1987, a band from Windsor in England. And this is the only single that they released. It was a double A-sided flexi disc. The other song on it was Eddie Lopez Lives in Slough. And I think it's a new genre, new category for our wavelength, where it's songs that's named after footballers. And this is 9 Steps to Ugly with their song, Bobby Charlton's Haircut. The jangly guitar pop of 9 Steps to Ugly, Bobby Charlton's Haircut, tying in with what I said earlier in the show about female-fronted bands. I just love them. Love the jangly pop style as well. C86, we're going to be doing a whole year of songs next year to celebrate the 40th anniversary of that, and I'll explain more about that next year, but you can look it up if you're not sure what C86 is. But a lot of the songs have that jangly sound, which I do love. So yeah, 9 Steps to Ugly. I'd say usually check out the stuff, but that was the only single that they released. And I thought it apt to play that as well after Man United's big dramatic win on Sunday against Arsenal in the FA Cup. Song there about the Man United legend Bobby Charlton, R.I.P. But that is it for the show. It's been another interesting one. It's been another packed one, a couple of good interviews, a lot of fun chat. Just before we go, Zach, any final thoughts from you? Any shout-outs you want to give?
Just looking forward to those December 31st Vancouver FC options taken or not taken.
One show we'll have them to talk about.
I mean, it was good. It was good to get. Sorry, I should say it was good to get the update that Callie and Nico are back, and the goal. Actions, goalkeeping. Sorry, but you can edit that out.
Fired from the podcast.
Goalkeeping. I was a goaltender when I was 7 years old. The goalkeeping position is sorted out, and that's exciting and encouraging and positive. And
if they play two, then they might keep the score down a bit.
That would be something special.
A new tactic.
New tactic, yeah.
Actually, if you played two goalkeepers, could both handle them, or would it just be the one?
I think it's only one, but still, it would be unique. I know I've heard other people say it otherwise, but it's probably the goalkeeping tandem in the league that I would trust the most in terms of experience and quality. Where you
so far, but I can't see that being beaten, I have to say.
I saw someone put on social media like, "Oh, Forge has the best goalkeeping tandem," and I was like, "What? Are you kidding me? They're like two of the worst keepers."
Yeah, that's the case where it's like I don't know which one to pick because I don't know who's going to be the worst.
Well, it was not even arguably to me that lost them the first game against Cavalry, and then the playoffs. Maybe less so in the second, but the first game that was a massive goalkeeping gaffe from I can't even remember which one. I think Colongo.
I can't remember now either.
Yeah. Anyways, looking forward to the news about the other players and who's coming and going. Oh, we didn't mention it, but Moses Dyer has landed in Ireland. So
yeah, Galway.
Have some, lucky charms over there, and Bob's his uncle.
I wish him well. I like Moses.
Oh, I like Moses too. I'm not happy he's not a Vancouver FC.
Yeah. I was hoping he was going to hang about Pacific. I just thought him and Dario had really forged a good partnership. So we'll see how he does over in Galway. I'm going to work on my idea of playing with two goalkeepers and how that might work. Always up for unique things. Have you heard of disco football?
I don't think I have.
Google disco football, and if anyone else hasn't heard about it, Google disco football. It's people that play football whilst disco dancing. It's very camp, but it looks a lot of fun. Doesn't resemble football per se, but it looks a lot of fun. I had a fun week. I was out on Thursday up at UBC and took in a little bit of the U18s and U16s training. Some good players coming through there. Got to meet a couple of them and say hi and have a few chats about a few things. So now that the Whitecaps have their coach, the season can begin. They're off to sunny Spain. Viva España. We're going to have lots of interviews to come and lined up. Hope you've enjoyed this show. We'll be back with another one soon. Until then, as always, thanks for listening. Take care. And mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left, yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.
AFTN